Hello, everybody. Hello, hello, hello. Turn some of my music down a little bit. Make sure all of my stuff looks like we are up and running better than I was last week. So, as you come in, welcome, 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 welcome. Thank you so much for joining today. And let me make sure my screen is right. Okay, and I believe it is. There we go. Well, thank you guys so much for joining today. I really appreciate your time. Tonight we're talking about making hard decisions. So I'm going to share a few affirmations surrounding that topic. If this is your first time, my name is Debbie. I'm a certified meditation coach. If you have been on my channel, I am the voice that you hear behind all the meditations that's posted weekly. So hey Kiki. So yeah, if this is your first time, welcome, welcome, welcome in. Make sure to like the live. If you haven't subscribed already, make sure to subscribe. And just check in with me every Monday on some affirmations. So, my laptop just was like, I didn't want to work. By the way, I'm gonna buy me a new laptop because this laptop business has been a little crazy and she's acting wild, like real wild right now. So that's gonna be on the docket soon to buy me a new laptop. But yeah, today, hard decisions. I have 7 affirmations that I'm going to share. Feel free to use the affirmations however you wish to. If you need to change the language, if you only want to take down the ones that make the most sense for you, that's fine. And you can use them however you want to. So if you want to write them down in your journal, if you want to just put them on your mirror, if you want to say them out loud, if you want to record yourself saying them, however you want to use them, feel free to do so. I hope these are helpful in regards to making hard decisions. I think just like when we just think about adulting in general, like 80% of our time and 80% of our day really is spent in making decisions, whether they're big or small. And sometimes we run into decision fatigue. We don't feel like making decisions. We procrastinate, especially when it comes to things that are outside of our professional careers or outside of just the simple day-to-day decisions. So anything that isn't like a normal or consistent thing that we do day in and day out, we tend to procrastinate on or push off or even just be stagnant in because of the fact that we just don't want to make the decisions, especially if they're a hard one. So hi Allison, welcome in. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Feel free to chime in as much as you can. You can definitely, talk back to me. If anyone wants to type in the affirmations as we go along, feel free to do so. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask them real time. I'll be more than happy to answer those for you. So just to start out, number 1, because we're going to dive right into it. Number 1 is I am actively building confidence to empower myself in navigating hard decisions. Let me turn this down. I am actively building confidence to empower myself in navigating hard decisions. I'll say that a third time because it is a little long. I am actively building confidence to empower myself in navigating hard decisions. Sometimes we are having a hard time in making a difficult decision because we simply lack the confidence within ourselves. And we heavily weight our past, like our past mistakes or our past decisions that we made when making new decisions, which is in essence a good thing, right? So like you want to weigh the probability of like, hey, like, okay, in me making this decision, I made the wrong decision the last time. I want to make sure that I'm making the right decision this time. Or when I made this decision in this part of my life, it may not have worked, but in this part of my life, it may actually work. So like weighing all of that is normal, right? So that's why I'm not saying that you can't weigh the cost. But sometimes we weight that so much to where we remain stagnant and we don't make the decision, and then we feel stuck. We don't feel like we're able to progress or move forward. We end up in a cycle or in a loop when it comes to that particular situation. And because of that, because of our past mistakes, we allow ourselves to continue in that versus just making the decision that we know that we need to make. So starting out when making hard decisions, you have to accept the fact that you may be lacking confidence within yourselves. And with number one, I am actively building confidence. I put it in that wording because I know a lot of times saying I am confident is hard. You're like, you may not even hold true to you. So you can change this however you want to change it. You can say I am actively building confidence, or I am confident, based off of whatever's true for you right now. Because the one thing about affirmations is you want to make sure that you use them in a way to where you feel you hold true to the actual affirmation. If you're saying something and you don't necessarily believe it, it's hard for it to manifest itself until you actually believe it. So sometimes you either got to say it till you believe it or change the language as you progress, so that way it's easier for you to accept. So I put in, I am actively building confidence to empower myself in navigating hard decisions. We just simply lack the confidence within ourselves, and we just have to stop heavily weighing the past in regards to making the next decision. Because that's what holds us back. That's what stops us. That's what creates the frustration. That's what creates the confusion. Sometimes we confuse ourselves because of the lack of confidence that we have within ourselves. So we create confusion as a way of self-sabotaging, and then we just don't make any decisions at all. So I hope this helps someone. Believe me, this is something that I've dealt with and still deal with to a degree in regards to making decisions. So, just keep all of that in mind when making those hard or tough decisions, or even the easy ones. Sometimes we lack confidence so much that we can't even make the easy decisions versus the hard ones. So keep that in mind. Number two, I think through all of my options carefully and invest the time needed in the thought process. In my thought process. My thought process sounds better, yes. I think through all of my options carefully and invest the time needed in my thought process. I'll say that one last time. I think through all of my options carefully and invest the time needed in my thought process. Awesome. So when it comes to thinking through your options, and it also ties into the number one. Sometimes we are having a hard time making decisions because we're making rash decisions, right? We're making decisions based off of our emotions, what we're feeling in that moment. We're making decisions based off of what our nervous systems may be out of whack, and because we feel anxious or, again, frustrated or confused, we end up making rash decisions. And because of that, now we don't trust ourselves in making decisions. I hope that makes sense. So if we take the time to think through our options and really think about and invest that time that we need to make those decisions, we'll end up making better decisions, which would then in turn build the confidence that we need to make decisions, right? It's all linked together. So I think through all of my options carefully and invest the time needed in my thought process. Really take the time when making a hard or difficult decision to weigh all of the options, to think about all of the scenarios, and then make an educated decision based off of that. And make the decision logically, not emotionally. And I think that's where we fall into the, again, lacking of confidence. The more that you do that, the more that you think through your actual options, the more that you think through and process what's happening before making decisions, the more you will have confidence within yourself to continue to make the right decisions. Okay? So I think through all of my options carefully and invest the time needed in my thought process. And the way that you practice this is by practicing it with small decisions, right? Even if it comes to like, so say in a certain area, you're having a hard time making financial decisions. Financial decisions is just something that you just really have a tough time navigating. Anytime that it pops up in your life, you just get instantly anxious, confused, frustrated, and it just kind of just goes into disarray. Think about how you make those decisions in that way, and think about whether they're rash decisions or if you think thoroughly about it. Most of the times, they're going to be rash decisions. It's going to be decisions that you make when you absolutely, positively have to, instead of making decisions in the time that you have the space to actually think through it or to really make an educated decision. So I challenge you all to think of the different areas in your life that create frustration, that you have a hard time making decisions in, and evaluate how you're currently making those decisions now and see how you can make changes. Think through it and feel through. Sometimes by doing super logical decisions, we rationalize ourselves out of thinking bigger. That's very true. There is a fine line between making a logical decision and exercising faith, or exercising hope. So there is a fine line in between that, but I think a lot of times because of that, there is a fine line also between faith and delusion also. Because faith without works is dead, right? So a lot of times we'll put faith into something and it end up just not going anywhere because we didn't put any work into it. And one thing that a mentor actually told me when it comes to exercising faith is we have to have faith in what God says versus the situation. So sometimes we'll put so much faith into like an actual situation, like this situation is going to work out this way, versus having faith in what God actually says, and how he does it may look different, if that makes sense. For instance, I'll give you an example. Instead of me putting faith in me getting this particular job, right, I put my faith in the fact that God will provide. Right? So he may provide in however he provides, right? But it may not be in the way that I'm exercising my faith in that specific thing. So I'm putting all of my eggs into this one basket of God's going to come through. He going to pull through and give me this one job at this one place. And at the end of the day, God's resources are endless, right? So the money can come from anywhere. So just really thinking about like the fine lines between it all, logical decisions, exercising faith, and delusion, because delusion is a real thing. And I found myself delusional too. So I'm not saying that to cast judgment on anyone. It's just a matter of understanding that there are fine lines between all of them, and understanding when to use what is the key and what's most important. Awesome. Yes, absolutely. So just keep all of that in mind. I know I kind of said a lot, but make sure to, once it's posted, you can rewind it and listen to it again. But just like understand that a lot of times we block ourselves from making the right decisions because of the fact that we're either in a delusional state, we're in fear, we're creating our own self-sabotage and delusion, and that delusion or that procrastination and making the decision. Awesome. All right, so that was number That was only number 2, y'all. Good Lord. It was number 2. Number 3, I am in tune with my values and leverage them as a guide to the right decision for me. I am in tune with my values and leverage them as a guide to the right decision for me. I'll say it one last time. I am in tune with my values and leverage them as a guide to the right decision for me. Sometimes we have a hard time in making decisions because we don't know ourselves, but then we also don't know what our core values are. And once we know what our values are, and once we really understand what those core values look like, and I'm just pulling up like a list of core values just in case, but I can always give you guys mine too. But once you know like what your core values are, then it will make it easier for you to make a decision on what you based off making the right decision based off of your values. So for instance, my core values are authenticity, gratitude, honesty, compassion, and kindness. Those are the core values that I like to embody when I go through my day-to-day, when I make decisions, when I go through and interact with people. Those are the ones that I gravitate towards. I'm also a believer. So that also kind of goes back to the fruits of the spirit, right? Of how you want to make sure that you're navigating life. So if I do select my 5 core values, my 5 core values have to align with that, right? So mine are authenticity, gratitude, honesty, compassion, and kindness. So when I'm making my decisions, I want to make sure that I am encompassing authenticity, gratitude, honesty, compassion, and kindness. So when dealing with people, when dealing and making decisions with my children, when making decisions within my professional career, is it authentic? Am I being authentic and true to myself and what I want and what I need, or what God wants and what God needs for me, right? Am I practicing gratitude? So when I go into these different situations, am I grateful? Am I humble with my approach when I'm making decisions in those different arenas? Honesty. Am I honest when I'm making these decisions, or if I'm just making the decisions to please other people? Compassion. Am I exercising compassion and empathy when dealing with the people and the situations that I'm dealing with from day to day? That will help me make my decisions on how I interact with people. Kindness. Are the things that I'm saying displaying kind, and the things that I'm doing kind? If not, then I'm not making the right decisions that align with my values. So just thinking about and I picked 5 for myself, but just thinking about what your actual core values are and what's really important to you, what you really want to make sure you're displaying in all of your interactions. And whenever you're making a decision, revert back to, okay, what are my values? And based off of my values, that will help guide me into making the right decisions. Some of the other values that you can display, and I feel like I have a video on this that kind of talks about this in depth. And I'm sure I've talked about core values before, but some of the ones that I have is acceptance, love, ambition, authenticity, grace, commitment, forgiveness, empathy, belonging, boldness, collaboration, connection, courage, curiosity, empathy, flexibility. I kind of go back and forth with flexibility because I love to have flexibility too. But freedom, fun, generosity, growth, humor, intimacy, persistence, responsibility, self-expression, self-awareness, strength, supportiveness, teamwork, trust, and accountability. Those are just like a few, but you can always Google like a list of core values, and just based off of those core values, really do your research. Look up the word. What does the word mean? What does it mean to you? Is it something that you really want to have at your core? And just pick 5 and use that as a guide to make your decisions. Going back to the affirmation, The affirmation was, I am in tune with my values and leverage them as a guide to the right decision for me. If your core values align with who you are authentically, then using those as a guide to make decisions will always lead you in the right direction. So keep that in mind. If you've never done like a core values like analysis, like definitely, take your time with it. It may not be something that you're just going to pick tonight, but think through it. Thought process, right? Take your time, no rash decisions. Think through it and process it, journal it, and really think through exactly what you want. Number 4, I am decisive and trust my instincts to guide me towards my desired outcomes. I am decisive and trust my instincts to guide me towards my desired outcomes. Sometimes we ignore our intuition, and that's why it's hard for us to make decisions. Plain and simple. That's all I got. Sometimes we just ignore our intuition. You ever been in that relationship? The core values in the chat, I would have to find which one it is. Let me see. I'll have to find which one it is because I know I've gone through this before, and it might have been, I'll have to find it. There's a core values meditation somewhere. So I'll find it and I'll put it in the comments. I'll put it in the comments after I post the video. There's a core values meditation. Yeah, I'm on my phone. But yeah, I think that there's definitely, but my laptop's janky. And every time I try to do it on my laptop, something wrong happens. So I've just given up. Yeah, I think there is a core, like if you search in the meditations, there is, and put in core values, there should be a core values meditation, but there's also a video where I actually talk about it in depth. So when I find the video, I'll put both of them in the comments, and pin it for you guys. But yeah, so let me go back. Where was I at? That was number 4, right? I am decisive. And I am decisive and trust my instincts to guide me towards my desired outcomes. So just understanding that there are times where we have our instincts, our gut is telling us something, and we just refuse to listen to it because of whatever reason. You've ever been in that relationship where the whole time it done told you, like, listen, this is not the right person for you. This ain't the person for you. This ain't the person for you. This is not the person for you. This isn't the person for you. It ain't, it won't be, won't never be. And you keep hearing it over and over and over and over again, but we ignore it for whatever reason, because of, we feel like if we, let the person go, that we'll never find the person that we want. If we let that person go, we'll be lonely. If we let that person go, this will go away or this will go away, whatever. It's just a matter of making the decision that's right for you, even when it doesn't feel good, right? And most hard decisions are because of that, right? Because it doesn't feel good to me to make this decision, so I therefore am not going to make the decision, or I'm going to procrastinate, or I'm going to push it off, or whatever. Giving yourself the space to, one, take in what your intuition is telling you, but then also process and accept the fact that this is the right decision before you make the decision. Because sometimes we'll make the decision and then we'll just go through this whole long, drawn out, upset fest. And if we would have just took the time to listen to our intuition earlier, processed and accepted at that time before we actually went through and did it, when we actually go through and then the hit isn't as hard. Not to say that you still won't grieve and won't go through, that process. It will, one, make it happen faster, so that way your grieving process is shorter, right? So like if you listen to your intuition sooner, then you won't be so involved in that situation to where it makes it harder and harder for you to step away from it. So just thinking about all of those things, paying attention to your intuition, listening to what people do or see, watching what people do versus what people say. And that will help you in making decisions in relationships specifically, but also in general. That was number 4. Number 5, I consciously take advantage of my resources to make informed decisions. I consciously take advantage of my resources to make informed decisions. I'll say that again. I consciously take advantage of my resources to make informed decisions. A lot of times we have a hard time making decisions because we don't want to ask for help. And if we would just ask for help, if we would just tap into our resources, it would make the decision making process so much easier, faster, and better, right? Now, of course, there are some situations where you have to make decisions on your own, but there are some situations where if you just would have asked for help, it would have just made it so much faster and easier. There's a situation where I was trying to figure out something on the business side, and I was just trying to research and figure it out on my own. And at one day I just ended up asking a friend of mine who's also an entrepreneur, like, hey, like, I've been trying to figure this out. I've been trying to figure this out for days. What am I supposed to do in this situation? And he was like, oh yeah, you just do this. And I was like, that's it. And he's like, yeah, you just do this and then you do that. I'll show you how to do it. And here's a template and da-da-da-da-da. And I had it done in like 15, 20 minutes. I was racking my brain for like 2-3 days. And if I would have just asked someone that I knew that actually had the resources and had most likely done it before, I would have saved so much time, frustration and confusion and wanting to give up and all this. I could have saved all of that if I just would have asked for help, right? So that one, the number 5, I consciously take advantage of my resources to make informed decisions, is a way to remind you that what are your resources in making this decision? What can help you make the decision? Who can help you make the decision? Does it just take a little bit of research? Sometimes some things is just a Google search. Just pop it in Google. Google will tell you. Google University will tell you every time, right? So just thinking about, is there any classes that you can take? Is there any workshops you can listen to? Is there any podcasts you can listen to on the topic? Is there anything that you can think of? Is there a book you can read? Is there any type of audible books that you can listen to? There's so many resources out there. We have everything at with the tap of our fingers. So when it comes to making a hard decision, think about what resources you have to help you make that decision. And sometimes we forget that. So that's just a reminder. I consciously take advantage of my resources to make informed decisions. Number 6, I embrace and accept what my decisions may yield. I embrace and accept that my decisions may yield unexpected outcomes. I embrace and accept that my decisions may yield unexpected outcomes. I'll say that one more time. I embrace and accept that my decisions may yield unexpected outcomes. Sometimes we push off making hard decisions because we expect the outcome to not be in our favor. And that's simply the reason why we won't make the decision. And because of that, it holds us up. It prevents us from growing. It prevents us from from going into the next phase of our lives. It prevents us from going into, from breaking us into the next piece, right? And we sit stagnant. We feel stuck. We get burned out. We go into autopilot because of the fact that we didn't make this decision. And because we didn't make the decision, yeah, we may feel better in that moment, but then other things kind of falter and fall apart because we won't make the decision. So understanding that and embracing and accepting the fact that some of these decisions I may make may not yield the outcome that I want, but it doesn't mean that it's not the right decision. Okay, so really understand that all of your decisions are not going to feel good. They're not going to yield a good response all of the time. Everything's not going to work out the way that you really thought or anticipated it to be. But that doesn't mean that it's not the right decision. It's not the right decision to make. So the faster you're able to embrace that, the faster you're able to accept that. And some of this is easier said than done. Believe me, I understand. But the way that you accept and embrace that is to, one, thinking of all of the different scenarios like we talked about before, and all of the other possibilities, and just say like, okay, if it works out this way, then this is what I'm going to have to deal with. So how I'm going to have to deal with it. If it works out this way, then great, like awesome, like that's the way that I want it. But if it works out this way, it may not be what I want, but I can still navigate it and grow from it, and have some type of optimism about it. Okay, so just thinking through each of the scenarios, going back thinking through each of the scenarios, but also embracing and accepting that the decision that you make may not yield the outcome that you want. And then number 7, last but not least, I release fear and doubt, and I choose clarity and decision making. I release fear and doubt, and I choose clarity and decision making. Sometimes when it comes to like decisions, and this is going to sound like kind of redundant, but sometimes we have to consciously choose the decision that we know that we need to make. And a lot of times, kind of going back to 6, a lot of times because we know what that outcome is going to be, we create our own confusion, we create our own fears, and we create our own doubt within ourselves in order to not have to make that decision. And with that, and not realizing that with that decision comes clarity, with that decision comes peace, with that decision comes some form of growth. So again, I understand that this is easier said than done. And depending on the situation, it may be, more difficult to actually make the decision that you need to make. But understand that creating that fear and anxiety and doubt and that frustration in yourself in order to not have to make the decision is even worse than actually making the decision. Okay, so making the decision will bring clarity, will bring peace, will bring some form of acceptance. So just thinking through that and understanding and really evaluate and have awareness of what anxieties and fears and doubt you're creating within yourself. Again, it goes back to self-sabotage. Sometimes when it comes to us making decisions, we don't want to make the decision, so we self-sabotage and talk ourselves out of stuff, talk ourselves out of things, instead of just making the hard decision to move forward. Thank you, Dr. Quinn. Thank you. So just understanding that we have to release the fear and the doubt and consciously make an effort to choose clarity in our decision making and to just choose to make the decision versus holding ourselves up, procrastinating, just waiting until the last minute to make the decision. So then you end up making a rash decision versus making a conscious, a logical, lucid one. And just understanding that that's just as important as making the decision itself. Releasing the fear, releasing the doubt, releasing the confusion, releasing all of that is just as important as making the decision yourself, itself, because of the fact that you probably wouldn't even be able to make the decision because there's so much space taken up by the fear and the doubt and the confusion and anxiety and all of the above: depression, sadness, loneliness, fear, anger, bitterness. I could keep going. I could keep going. Jealousy, envy, all of that is in there. So So yes. So when it comes to that was number 7. Yeah, so that was the last one. So when it comes to these affirmations, I hope these are helpful. I'm gonna go back through them from the top. Number 1 is I am actively building confidence to empower myself in navigating hard decisions. Number 2, I think through all of my options carefully and invest the time needed in my thought process. Number 3, I am in tune with my values and leverage them as a guide to the right decision for me. Number 4, I am decisive and trust my instincts to guide me towards my desired outcomes. Number 5, I consciously take advantage of my resources to make informed decisions. Number 6, I embrace and accept that my decisions may yield unexpected outcomes. And number 7, I release fear and doubt. I release fear and doubt, and I choose clarity in my decision making. So those are all of them. Make sure to write them down. If you miss anything, this will be saved, so you can always go back and watch the video to get the affirmations. But yeah, be blessed. I hope all is well with everyone. We'll see you next Monday. I don't know what the topic will be next Monday, but I will see you next Monday. There will be some meditations posted this week. I'm not even going to say when because I do start school. If anybody wasn't on last week, I start graduate school this year. This week. So my first class is Wednesday, and then I have another. No, my next class is Tuesday. Yeah, my first class is tomorrow, and then I have another one on Wednesday. 2 classes this semester. Wish me luck. You're welcome. You're welcome. And you all have a great rest of your night. I will give you guys a thank you. I'll give you guys a recap on my first week of school, of graduate school, next Monday. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.